can only imagine what the fuck yours is like.
Mm-hmm.
How did that change you in that moment? Did you kind of like reflect back on that like later in the day? What were your thoughts? Or did that take time to sink in? Or was it just you were on stress so much that you really didn't get a chance to process it once it kicked off?
So it's really more of the latter. Like I said, kind of a couple minutes ago, I've ran in that 6-month time period. I participated in over 200 combat missions.
So in 180 days, you were out there just
I was
busting
out.
ass.
We were out 2 or 3 times a day plus our rest days, and so the math out, between 200 and 300. I haven't done the full math, but 180.
180 took you on missions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that whole episode takes place. You hop in the vehicle and you proceed with your patrol. You get out and you do the next one. You go back, you eat lunch, you turn around, start over. I mean, there was no time to process what's going on. I think the problem with the difference in the mental change between a combat experienced veteran versus not necessarily an administrative, but somebody that's removed from that level of the front line, that mental change that you're referring to is completely different. All facets of the military that have to deploy and have to deal with it and have to leave this country and do any part of it, it's a big deal. But I do believe that, when you're that individual, that smaller percentage, that 3%, that actually participates in active combat, it does change you. Especially if there's someone from your, from my perspective, I know there's someone on the receiving end, it definitely changes the way you see things. And what I think and where I'm getting at with that, kind of to bring it around. So the problem with the transition from military life back into civilian life is that there is no clear way to distinguish that change between those two individuals. So the coming home of that, two layer removed individual and how their life is going to be perceived going forward is a lot different than mine and my companions, I do strongly believe. And that's because, at the end of the day, that person that's a couple layers removed, they're just going to go eat lunch and go report to their desk or go, repair their equipment or repair their vehicle or work on their radios.
Yeah.
For 180 days, I didn't get to stop and process. There was no stopping and processing. It's 180 days of wake up, shit it, and get it. So the dynamic destruction, I would say, in your prefrontal cortex from that, and how your body can decipher and translate dopamine and serotonin, alcoholism and addiction, it's vastly different from somebody that never got that close. And so I think that's a lot of why, especially getting into older age conflicts, you hear about the hollow eye syndrome of World War I and 1,000-yard stares and, the people, the cave rats that would dive and dig around and find, the Vietnamese. It's the people that are up close and personal that have the biggest change and the hardest things. I don't want to say they end up with the hardest demons to fight, because I don't ever know what somebody else, how their layer, whatever it is, how it affects them, obviously. But I do feel that there's a significant impact on our exposure that affects our ability to go forward.
I have to ask, what was one part of that you saw over there and all that, in that 180 days, that you just went, that's fucked? And it really hit you different. Like you just went like, damn. And if you don't want to answer it, I'm totally okay with that.
No, I will. It may take me a second.
Okay.
It was nighttime, and we were on this, I want to say the north side of the city, running in between the train station and the outer perimeter, and a little boy.
Yeah, take your time, man. We're here.
Probably 8 years old, probably got promised a bicycle, pulls the pin on a grenade, gets wasted. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I told that wrong. He pulls the pin on a grenade, and the grenade blows up in his hand. that grenade was intended to go in one of my gunner's turrets. I mean, that's 8-year-old, 6-year-old boy, you know, with some shitty promise from some uncle for a bicycle or a loaf of bread, something silly, was trying to take out a vehicle. And so I saw this little boy pull that pin on that grenade and just pink missed. And, I mean, that was pretty gruesome. I mean, I saw countless dead bodies and all that. And I've seen, you know, a lot on the gruesome and the gory side. And you know, if you've seen it in the movies, I've seen it in real life, but seeing it in the perspective of it being a child, just makes it a lot different. And just how what we do and, you know, the decisions that we make politically, and it affects everybody, you know.
Yeah. How did they handle your transition coming back from all that shit? Because that's my next question, because obviously after going through all that, they're just busting your ass through it over 180 days. Then you go home and get this break or whatever it is. How did they transition you guys?
So my first deployment in 2007, when we did our demobilization, they sent us to Camp Pendleton, California for 30 days. And we just did a series of classes and, you know, how to reinstate your life insurance, how to transfer all this over into civilian life. I mean, it was a very...
this fucked up shit you guys saw?
Well, I mean, here's the VA's phone number. Here's a counselor if you want to talk to them.
So that was the best
here's the resource. That was the best that you got. And I visited the VA, and I won't beat up on the VA. The VA does great things, and I think the VA has changed for the positive in the recent years, and I'll explain why. Well, and a lot of it goes back to what I was saying a minute ago. I mean, how do you decide how to help that person transition?
Yeah.
You know? No. There is no clear path to remediation.
No, because you guys saw things that will forever change you. Like, you know, I mean, that was something like when Saving Private Ryan came out, a lot of the World War II generation guys like would see that movie and it fucked them up because, like you said, what you saw in the movie is what you really saw. And I'm sitting there thinking like they'd even have a conversation, pull you all in a room with people who had already seen stuff.
Oh no.
And kind of like be like, hey guys, like, no, I'm here, get like the brotherhood. They'd even like help perpetuate the brotherhood with you guys.
It was like a PowerPoint. I mean, it was like, hey, I'm Dr. So-and-so from, here's my card, you know, hey, I'm DAV, here's my card. Hey, I mean, it was very, you figure at that point in time, there's 1,200 of us. We've all got to go to medical. We've all got to go to dental. We've all got to turn our gear in. We've all got to go to all these PowerPoints. I mean, there are so many other things that higher ups are required to do in that 30 days. It's just like allotting, you know, your budget. You know, you budget your time where it goes. And so we get a day full of PowerPoints on how to reciprocate your life when you move on.
So how were you when you came back home then?
So, I mean, I was still young enough to where it's not like I was, you know, a successful business owner. I was working a 9 to 5, you know, it wasn't, you know, I was in a frame of mind that I was just going to continue doing what I was doing, working 9 to 5, you know, not be anything, not really go anywhere. And it didn't really tell you how to process anything. And,
did you struggle with suicide or thinking any of that when you came back at any point, like trying to readapt? Because we've talked about, you feel strongly about that with veterans, and you talked that bothers you. So did you struggle with that?
No, see, and I don't know if it goes back to just that core mind frame of intestinal. I don't know if it's intestinal fortitude necessarily, or just more just whatever it may be. There's never been anything that's been enough of a trial in my life to where I've considered suicide. That's me personally. And we know that there's obviously a lot bigger struggle out there of the 22 plus guys that were killed in those 6 months. Of the 1,200 or so that I deployed with, over triple of that have committed suicide since the deployment. So there's over 3 times as many people that were killed by enemy fire since I've come home have taken their lives.